152 yards. Should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yo, what up, my friends? Coming in hot tonight. Welcome to Preferred Lines for the RSM Classic. We are coming to you live on Twitter and YouTube off of back-to-back wins on the PGA Tour. This is the Preferred Lines podcast. As I mentioned, if you stumbled upon this, feel free to give it a like, a subscribe on the YouTube page. That is always much appreciated. If you want to drop any questions in the chat, there is no guest tonight. Consider that you. Ask me a question. I will be happy to bring it up on screen and do my best to answer it. Might not be good, but might not be what you want to hear, but I'll do my best. Make sure that you are not doing that on Twitter. You pop on over to the YouTube page and drop it in there. Here's what we got. RSM Classic. Sea Island. Went to Sea Island a few years ago. Did not play these particular courses, but excited about it. We've got a little bit of course history. We kind of know what to expect from this week. Let's get right into the course preview. I don't want to waste any time. Sea Island Resort. So there are two golf courses. There is the Seaside course and the Plantation course. They share similarities. They're both roughly around 7,000 yards, so short by PGA Tour standards. The Seaside is a par 70, and the Plantation course is going to be a par 72. Of course, it has those two additional par 5s, which are extremely gettable. It's a little bit tighter, a little bit more tree line. It's a little bit more difficult, but the fact that you have two extra strokes to par has led that to play almost a stroke more under par, if I said that correctly. So in terms of two par scoring, the Plantation course is a bit easier, but in terms of overall score, Seaside's still going to take the cake because it still plays under par. Tom Fazio redesigned, I should say, on the Seaside course. David Slove getting his hat in the ring. We've seen a couple of courses designed by former players here lately with Brooks and with Norman, of course. So Davis Love had a heavy hand in the redesign of the Plantation course. It is Bermuda grass, fairways, and greens. Familiar coastal, southern Georgia, almost right at the tip of Florida there, type of elements. The fairways are wide, so there is a lot of water in that aspect, but the fairways are nearly 42 yards wide on average, at least at the Seaside course, which is there were 6 tournaments in a row, for reference, that they were under 30. So 42 yard wide fairways. It is a resort course, even though there is water. It doesn't really play into it. Greens are on the bigger side, undulating. I'll get a little bit more into those later. Cut line historically has been around 4 or 5 under par. Plays is one of the easier stops on tour almost every year. For instance, last year, Taylor Gooch won this event at 22 under par. Robert Streb the year before at 19 under par. Outlier year with the weather when Tyler Duncan won at -11. That's like you see with a lot of these courses, that's going to be your defense. The course can play, so it's totally dependent upon the conditions. Charles Howe won it the year before that at 19 under par. So in terms of my model, last week I put a ton into off the tee game, distance, and good drives gained. It's what basically landed me sort of on Tony Finau last week. I'm going to almost completely diminish those and kind of wipe those away this week. Resort course, everyone's going to hit the fairway, which it becomes essentially a second shot golf course. And being that it's shorter, almost everyone in the field is going to have 100 to 175 yards on nearly all approach shots. That's going to be a key range for the week, given that the course is sub 7,200 yards. I like to look at approach stats and kind of filter that out by shorter courses. I'm going to get into a little model here in a second, which I'm going to bring on screen that will be my default guess for the week. We'll talk more about that. Birdie or better rates, particularly of the fall, a little bit of course history, and of course, this is a classic putting week. I mentioned this on Twitter earlier. This time of year, especially in the Southeast with these Bermuda grass greens, get extremely grainy. And it's one of those things that when I moved here took me a while to understand. Because there's a lot of times where people are going to tell you to read the grain. It'll end up putting you on the wrong track. And it's not as much of a factor as an amateur player may assume in a putt. It moves it in the winter. And the fact that it's going to be cold in the 40s and low 50s the majority of the week there, it just makes putting really hard. The grain is super firm. Like Bermuda grass has to be able to withstand the elements. It is a tough grass. And I'm not a huge grass person by any means, but bent grass and these other types of forms are able to be easily manipulated by a golf ball. Bermuda grass has to stand up to 90-degree heat, has to stand up against the salt water. It is firm. It's strong. So it is hard to move. And when it gets going a certain direction, there is no doubt that it is going to move your ball that way, especially when the weather coldens up a little bit. If it firms it up even more, get yourself a good putter this week. I've got a couple. I'm going to bring up now sort of the model, and I wanted to showcase this because it's so Rick, who I do the Wednesday Jock Market show with, kind of rolled out a new version of his custom model, which I really like, and I wanted to sort of bring it up on screen. I hope that he doesn't mind. Of course, I pay for the sub to his site. It is behind a paywall, but I think it is well worth it, and I kind of want to showcase that and bring that in here so I can give you some of the capabilities. So, like no sponsors on the show anymore. I'll talk a little bit about that in a brief final thoughts segment, but it's just me, guys. Of course, my friends Chad and Eric and Jish still support the show, Fantasy Golf Pod. That's the only guys I got left helping me out. If you may be interested in supporting your preferred lines for 2023, please reach out. Would love to hear from you, and am actively sourcing ideas to keep the show alive. So anyone that's here right now, I appreciate your support greatly. This is what sort of Rick's got going on his custom modeling here. So you can either build at the top here by date range or recent rounds. 32 is what I picked. It basically goes back 8 tournaments, assuming that you made the cut in every one. If you missed some cuts, it's going to go back even further than that. What's nice about Rick's data is it's current. It's pulls from all tours. So there is Corn Ferry stuff. There is European Tour stuff. There is live stuff if you have guys who may be in a European Tour field who you're trying to research. So it pulls everything. So here's kind of how you can break it down. Strokes gained. This is how I did it. Off the tee, 8, approach 15, around the green 5, putting 5. You can get into weighted strokes gained, which is essentially taking the strength of the field and then measuring that against your strokes gained. For instance, when Denny McCarthy, who I talk about later, gained 8 strokes at the U.S. Open, that's a lot better than gaining 8 strokes at the Butterfield Bermuda, which it should be. Those strokes are weighted differently based on field strength, which I think is a cool factor. Here's where you can get down to your round by round. I did not do that this week, but this is extremely helpful. This is all your standard markers, 12, 24, 36, 50, 100 rounds. You can individually put in weights for each one of those. Scoring. Looking at birdie or better rates this week. Last week I had bogey avoidance in there. Not really concerned with the fantasy stuff. I don't really. This is a betting show. Driving. I have nothing this week, but you can look at distance versus accuracy. Approach. This is where I really kind of honed in on a lot of those proximity buckets. Definitely played a little bit of greens in regulation just to bring that into the fold. And then putting. Strokes gained putting on Bermuda. I did 10% here. Hole types, you can do this all by distances for each hole, or you can, just do it by par 3 scoring or par 4 scoring. I did not do any of that. Course history, this is, I found very convenient. So instead of looking, it's just an easy way to filter it out by course. So of course I did a little bit of Sea Island here, and then course types, easy, right? Scoring distance are going to be easy. Brian Harmon is the number 1 guy in my model, followed by Tony Finau, Jason Day, who's been red hot. Brendan Todd is there, Chesson Hadley, Tom Hoagie, Scott Stallings, Ben Taylor, Andrew Putnam, Aaron Rye. So those are my top 10. As you can see, like Harmon is clearly like 0 red on this. Anyone that I like how he puts the little medals in here too, so you can see first, second, or third. So obviously the weighted strokes gain total, Brian Harmon has been fantastic there. Finau extremely consistent again. Jason Day's numbers have been rocketing. So great to see some good stuff from Jason Day. And then Brendan Todd, who I like this week as well. I'm going to bring up now. Let's make some bets. What do you say? All right. Odds checker grid. Tony Finau trying to go back to back. He's 10-1 over Bet365. That's the best number you are going to find. Brian Harmon now 25-1. So this is a nice gap here. This is what we like to see with a heavy favorite. Seamus 25-1, Montgomery 29-1, Day 30-1, Hoagie 30-1, McCarthy is 35-1. First bet I made today, Denny. First bet. This is a putting course. I love his ability to do so on the Bermuda grass. I like his ability to play well at smaller golf courses with not a lot of trouble in terms of water off the tee. It's where he gets himself into trouble all the time. Just find a 42-yard wide fairway. He is good with his wedges. He is great with his putter. He's fantastic around the green. I think it's time. And this is like me testing fate a little bit. Feeling myself a little bit coming off a Russell Henley victory and a Tony Finau victory. Like, why not take my boy here? I could go Hoagie. I think he's the popular pick, and I think that that's deservingly so. But in the same token, I think McCarthy's the better putter. If you point to some sort of Bermuda grass splits there, I think that makes a massive jump for him as well. Finau, I just don't. Although he's won like 3 of his last 7 or 8. It's tough. I'm not taking 10-1 Finau. I just had 25-1. Harmon is the top of my model. I hear anyone who's saying that would make a valid bet at 25-1. That is a quality number, seeing that he's 7 points lower at 18-1 over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Yeah, could be talked into it. Could be swayed on Brian Harmon. Not going to do it, though, for right now, for the purposes of this show. Moving down the board just a little bit. Here's some of the names you're going to see. Killer Keith Mitchell, he's a Sea Island boy, 35-1. Joel Damon as well, 40. P. Raj, 45-1. Davis Riley's 50-1. He's been playing fantastic. Justin Rose had a nice week for himself last week at 50-1. Kisner's 50-1. Mackenzie Hughes is 50-1. I instantly wanted to go to Kisner. Then I saw, speaking of just like shameless shout outs, I watched my boy DB's early first look preview. Great tidbit in there from DB that Kevin Kisner has kind of quietly split ways with John Tillery, longtime coach, longtime friend, is now working with Justin Parsons, I believe, there in the Sea Island area. But anytime that you are going through and in the beginning stages of a swing change and a coach change, it's a red flag. Not that he can't do it. It's the type of red flag that you don't necessarily want when trying to look for reasons to back a guy. Mackenzie Hughes, I have a lot of interest in. Have not made this bet yet, and I'm not quite sure why. I don't think I quite had the 50-1 available. But he's the one that I definitely liked early on, but is not one of the 4 names that I've currently already bet. If there's a 50 out there, I like it. He's been playing fantastic, coming off a recent win. I think he has a win at the RSM too, right? If anyone's in here, fact check that for me. I think that's where he got his first victory. Did he win that? I'm going to look up on my phone here. You know what? Let's bring in old Google. Mackenzie Hughes RSM win. Rookie Hughes wins the RSM Classic 2016, St. Simon's Island. Great memory on this guy. Mackenzie Hughes is 50-1. Love that. You should take that. If you have the 50, take it. That's at DraftKings. Moving down a little bit, Kuchar's 50 to 1, Neesmith 50 to 1, Sahith Theegala's 50 to 1, Penrith 50, Webb Simpson 50 to 1. Oh, how Webb has fallen. Wyndham Clark is 50. They just seem to have stacked everyone here who at one point was a good player. Putnam 55, Spawn 55, Rye 60, Smalley 60, Brendan Todd. Let's talk Brendan Todd. Let me pull back up the custom model here because he's really been fantastic. The strokes gain off the tee is clearly his worst stat available here, but I mentioned that I'm sort of devaluing that. I only had a 5% weight on it regardless. Where's he been really good? Obviously, strokes gain putting. He's fantastic on Bermuda. The birdie or better rate is 8th right now in the field. Also solid. 10th in short wedges, 100 to 125. He is 4th. All around pretty solid. Stroke gain easy. He's top 20 in that as well. Good course history here. Good Sea Island narrative. Great putter. Short course. In decent form. Let's take Brendan Todd, 60 to 1. Todd father. McCarthy, Todd. 2 of the top 5 putters in the field. McCarthy's 1. Todd's a top 5 putter. All right, let's keep it moving. Hardy 66, going down into kind of this middle range. Here's an interesting one. 2 of them. Taylor Moore, Will Gordon. I was on Taylor Moore last week at 60 to 1. This feels like one of those situations where you don't want to jump off a week too soon. It's the last event of the fall. I've been on this guy. He's been consistently putting together decent finishes one after another. I should probably go back for my own sanity. Will Gordon, now a Sea Island guy as well, 66 to 1. I think he's living there with Davis Thompson. Great number on him, 41 to 1 over at FanDuel. So clearly he's getting kind of steamed. 50 to 1, a lot of other books. Who is this? This is BetMGM, has a 66 to 1 on Gordon. That's a good number. Kirk 66. We got to talk about Burmeister for a second because here's another one. Blindly on him last week. No, nothing. 4th in my stat model. Everyone's on him. He's super chalk in DraftKings. Everyone's got a betting ticket. Everyone's got jock market shares of him. And it's the same number in a worse field a week later, and it feels like nobody's going to want to play him. May run that one back on the card just for, just to be safe. Grayson Sigg, this is the next bet I have, 85 to 1. Had a great fall thus far. Also has sort of some local narratives and ties to the area. 85 to 1. I think I got an 80 here. But still, I feel like that number is pretty unanimously available. I like that number. Let me see if he's doing anything in my stat model, even though I didn't really see his name here. Where is he at? You know what? Let's do this. Let's showcase a little more of Rick's great site here. I'm going to go to Golfer Profiles. Let's see what Grayson Sigg's been up to. Tony Finau gaining 0.316 in putting. Jesus. Sick. 42nd at Mayakoba, no strokes gained there. Butterfield, Bermuda, 11th, 7 strokes gained total there. Not much other than that. Shriners, 44th. Sanderson Farms, 9th. Fortinet, 51st. He's been great with the putter. Like I mentioned, you're obviously going to want a good one. Gained in at least 4 straight. Could potentially be more than that. The approach numbers haven't been great. That's a little bit worrisome, but I took an 80 to 1. All right. Moving down, Jaeger, Griffin, Thompson, Molinari. These now we're starting to get in a triple digit 100 to 1. JT Poston. What's JT Poston been up to? Because that's a big number on Poston. I hit Poston at the John Deere, which I believe was in July. Since then, yeah, it hasn't been. So the last 2 starts haven't been good. Cut at Mayakoba, 67th at the CJ Cup. That's not great. Straka, a lot of people liked last week, is 100 to 1. Lee Hodges is there. Love Justin Lower, 120 to 1. Let's look at Justin Lower here. Look at how easy and like seamless this is to kind of go back and forth between guys. Cut last week. Okay. Get here a little early. 56th, 8th, 20th, 45th, 4th, 9th. So before last week when he had the cut, 1, 2, 3, 4 of his previous 6 starts were top 20 finishes. Also a very good putter that you can see here, with the exception of the Houston Open. He is pretty much a consistent gainer with the putter. That looks like it is his strongest stat category. He's 120 to 1. And the last guy I want to talk about here, what's going on with my boy lately? All right, what do you do at Houston? Oh my God, Svensson finished 39th and gained 4 strokes putting. I've been begging for Svensson to gain 4 strokes putting forever, and he lost strokes on approach and ball striking. Wild game we like. 39th, it's been pretty bad. What's the best number on him? Maybe a top 20. I like him here in the Southeast. I like him on short courses. These are sort of the poignant like filters that I have in place for am I going to bet Svensson. 150 to 1 is the best number there on FanDuel and Bet MGM. Yeah, those are my bets. Anyone else down here? I have not taken. Ryan Moore's been playing better for what it's worth. He's 180 to 1. Here's Streber. He's got a win 2 years ago, 200 to 1. Callum Tarran's been really falling off. Yeah, I don't see anything else. Maybe Duncan. Duncan won here. Has he been bad? It's 250 to 1. There have been some huge bombs that have hit here. I retweeted PGA Splits earlier today that says the average winner, I believe, over the last 8 to 10 years is 120 to 1 on the odds board. Don't be afraid to sprinkle a couple. Basically, the last event of the fall here. All right. That was Preferred Lines. Those are my bets. I appreciate you checking out the show once again. This is going to, I don't think I'm going to do a show for the hero. This is going to do it for this year. I'm going to take the next 45 days and figure out what I'm going to do. I don't want to say that this is the last episode of Preferred Lines. I don't believe that to be true, but I've got to figure out ways, guys. Like I'm pouring a lot into this, and I have to figure out a way to monetize it and make it worth my time. My family and the time that I'm taking away from my kids and my wife is it's not a burden. It's a choice and it's a hobby, but I need to make sure that I'm valuing that time equal with what I'm getting out of this show. Now, do I need to get paid a ton of money to do the show? No, that's not what I'm saying, but I need to make sure that the importance of being there to put my kids to bed, the importance of making sure that they go to sleep before I run downstairs, the importance of not putting everything on getting stuff ready for the morning on my wife and rushing around 2-3 nights a week to get down here and get everyone tucked away is a lot. It's a lot for new parents. My daughter's turning 3 this weekend. My son will be turning 6. My kids are getting bigger. I'm just in a busy time. I'm open to other opportunities if there are any that could potentially come out there. This has always been my dream. This has always been my baby. This has always been something. And I actually rewatched the first one that I did to myself and the final thoughts that I had. And just speaking about taking a chance on myself, and I feel like I gave it a good effort. I've done a lot to sort of improve everything from the thumbnails to the branding to the look to shirts. And like, look, I'm going to be honest, the viewership is down. I'm not getting as many downloads. Maybe I'm being hard on myself because it is the fall, but it's starting to get, if I'm being completely open and honest, which I've always prided myself on being and authentic, it's becoming a little discouraging to me. And this is not to say that people don't have the right to choose other shows, and there's so many other good things out there. And I have a ton of respect for anyone else who sits in front of a microphone and does this. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to see and sort of assess things. I didn't want to make this a big thing, but if you're here and you're checking out the show, I see you. I thank you for being along for this ride. We're over 100 episodes in. I've logged over 200 hours doing this, so it's appreciated. Thank you very much. I don't want to take up any more of your time tonight. Enjoy Monday Night Football. The best of luck. Let's try to go back to back to back. Let's hit one at the RSM Classic. Denny week. If it's Denny week, that might be a good way to go out. Love you. Appreciate you. Peace.